So recently we talked about the best free agent signings of the last decade, and today what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and flip the script. This video is going to be a lot more fun to make. I don't know what it is about people liking negative things, but this will be the worst signings of the last decade, and I'm just gonna preface it right now. There are some stinkers on this list, so if you guys think that Major League Baseball is the route that you want to take, go for it, because you can be really bad and still make millions. We are not going to waste any time. The first player on this list is going to be brought to you by our sponsor SeatGeek. If you're going to any sporting events or concerts anytime soon, use code FUZZY to save $20 off your purchase. Back in 2013, the Yankees gave star Red Sox player JACOBY ELLSBURY a 7-year, $153 million contract. And if you're paying attention to any of the baseball news recently, he was just released from the Yankees. So what does that really mean? The Yankees think so low of JACOBY ELLSBURY, and considering he has not played in a Major League Baseball game since 2017, I really don't blame them. It's almost like a Josh Hamilton situation. The Angels paid the Rangers to take on his contract. So I don't know how this is going to go for the rest of his career. He is 34 years old. I don't know if anyone's going to take him because that contract stinks. And just to put it into perspective, from 2014 to 2017, when he was making $21 million a season, he only averaged playing in 130 games. He had 10 home runs, 50 RBIs, a decent amount of stolen bases at 26, but he had a 716 OPS over the course of 2014 to 2017. That's really bad. The Yankees, they're pretty good with getting free agents. This one is not an example of that. The Red Sox are going to have a few players on this list, but in my opinion, the best one, just because I kind of like him as a player, he's just kind of an anomaly. Pablo Sandoval, he's a fat guy who plays like a skinny guy. It just doesn't really make sense. The Red Sox, they decided to give him a 5-year, $95 million contract in 2015, and Sandoval pretty much stole that money from the Sox. He only managed to play in 161 games over the course of 3 seasons, and on top of that, in those 161 games, he only hit .237. So at that point, the Red Sox, they kind of washed their hands and they said, we're done with this guy, just like they did with our next player, Carl Crawford. Growing up, one of my favorite players in baseball was Tampa Bay Rays outfielder Carl Crawford. In 2010, at 28 years old, he was 7th in the MVP race with an .851 OPS. He had 19 home runs, 13 triples, 47 stolen bases, and an .851 OPS. So sometimes you get these guys that steal a lot of bags, but the power is not there. Crawford, he was almost a perfect baseball player aside from his arm in the outfield. And what did the Red Sox do? Just like Pablo Sandoval, they decided to dish out a ton of money for this guy. In 2011, they gave him a 7-year, $142 million contract. But if we take a look at his stats, he was only a Red Sox player for 2 seasons. Crawford suffered the same sort of fate as JACOBY ELLSBURY, a guy that used to be a high contact hitter and a guy that stole a lot of bags. Injuries got to him, and in 2012, after hitting just .260 for the Red Sox in those 2 seasons, he was shipped to LA with Adrian Gonzalez and Josh Beckett. And now that I think about it, Carl Crawford, Adrian Gonzalez, and Josh Beckett all in one trade, that was a mega deal. I remember this moment as if it happened yesterday. 20-year-old Jason Heyward started off his career with a bang. In his first ever Major League at-bat, he hit a home run, and that kind of set the tone for his rookie season. He was almost Rookie of the Year. He came in 2nd place, but he was an All-Star. One of the best 20-year-old seasons in baseball history. And what did the Cubs do? They saw all of his stats in Atlanta. They saw what they wanted to see in St. Louis. Even though he wasn't very good with the stick, he's always been a plus defender. The Cubs, they said, let's go ahead and give him a ton of money. Not a good idea. Now I'm going to give Jason Heyward some credit, because in 2019, this past season, he easily had his best offensive year in Chicago with a 772 OPS, but the fact that from 2016 to 2019, he's only hit 47 home runs, he's only stolen 24 bags, he's hit .252, and over the course of these last seasons, he has a combined 711 OPS. So yeah, that's cool. If you want to go to 711 for Slurpee, that's awesome. But a 711 OPS in Major League Baseball is not going to get it done, especially when you're getting paid. How much was the contract? 8 years, $184 million. Easily one of the worst contracts on this list, and might be the biggest reason why Bryce Harper is playing in Philadelphia and now with his buddy Chris Bryant out in Chicago. So we're gonna go ahead and get this one out the way real quick. Chris Davis of the Baltimore Orioles And I just have to laugh because I do like Chris Davis as a human being. He's a really cool guy. He's been on Intentional Talk a couple times. He's funny. He's down to earth. But as a baseball player the last couple seasons, I'm actually going to put up a tweet that I put out. I'm not even going to say anything. If you're not looking at your phone or your computer, whatever you're watching on, look at the screen right now. He's been paid over $90 million the last couple years to have a negative WAR. Now, I'm not talking about a negative WAR in one season. He's combined for a negative WAR and is being paid $90+ million. So if you can hit the baseball a little bit, go play baseball, show that you can hit one season, and then you get paid this much money, suck the rest of it, you're good, you're a thief, okay? You're better at stealing than you are hitting. Now, I'm not gonna be too hard on Albert Pujols because I do like him as a human and a baseball player, but the fact that the Angels gave this dude $255 million over the course of 10 years back in 2012, so we know that the deal is still not done yet, and in every single season, he's gotten worse and worse and worse. Now, the biggest factor is injuries. He's had foot issues, he's had elbow issues, so that has really sped up his decline. So I'm not going to go too hard on Pujols because he is one of the greatest players in baseball history, but that contract at $25.5 million a season, that's rough. Speaking of rough, I'm going to go ahead and put YOENIS Cespedes on this list. In 2017, he signed a 4-year deal worth $110 million with the New York Mets, and the unfortunate part is, just like Albert Pujols and a lot of other guys on this list, injuries has really cost him his career in New York. He's made $58 million over the last 2 seasons despite playing in just 119 games. And then in 2019, Mom, why are you texting me? Sorry about that, guys. But in 2019, he did not play a single game as he had injuries to his calf, hamstring, and heel. So if we're taking a look at YOENIS for the next couple seasons, because it does end in 2021, I'm not sure how this is going to go, but he is a top player in the game when he's healthy. He's got one of the best arms I've ever seen. I hope that he can come back and fulfill that contract. But also on the flip side, if I was making a video about the best contracts of the decade, I think YOENIS Cespedes to the A's would be in the top 10, maybe top 15. So he's not a bad player. Again, injuries really got to him. One of the biggest reasons why the Detroit Tigers lost 110 plus games this last year in 2019 is because they gave $110 million to Jordan Zimmerman. If you guys do not remember, Zimmerman played with the Washington Nationals and he was actually pretty good. If I'm not mistaken, I think he also threw a no-hitter with Washington, so he was one of the best pitchers in the National League. And then guess what happened as soon as he went to the AL? This guy, he switched and then he just failed to reach double-digit wins in any of the 4 seasons, and his .379 winning percentage is the second lowest in baseball since 2016. 90 starts, 2016, he's been one of the worst since he signed this contract, and I feel bad for the Tigers because they used to be really good, a powerhouse with Miggy. They had Verlander, they had a bunch of top prospects as well. They just haven't really panned out, and I don't know if the Detroit Tigers are going to be good for a couple years. It's kind of sad. One of the most controversial players in Major League Baseball history, Josh Hamilton went from #1 pick to a drug addict. He finally made his comeback with the Reds and the Rangers. He became an MVP. So what did that get him? That got him $125 million for 5 years back in 2013 with the LA Angels. So the Angels, they've been prone to not make the best decisions as well, whether it's Pujols, whether it's CJ Wilson, Josh Hamilton, Justin Upton. But in regards to Josh Hamilton, he was ultimately shipped back to Texas in 2000, I believe it was 2014 or 2013. He was so bad after hitting just 31 home runs and 1,000 plate appearances for the Angels, they would rather ship him to Texas. That's how bad he was. I still miss him every single day because he is one of my favorite baseball players in history, but the fact that he's kind of weird now, he's not a very good person, ugh, that sucks. Up next, we have the second coming of Jason Heyward. We're talking about Alex Gordon. In 2015, the Royals gave defense first outfielder Alex Gordon $72 million for 4 years. And I'm just going to keep it simple. He's only hit above 250 one time since that contract. In 2019, he was a little bit better, but the fact that his OPS is almost at 600 with the 4 years combined, I cannot believe that they gave this man $72 million. Now, granted, I think that the Royals fans wanted him back and there was a bit of nostalgia involved, but man, that's a lot of money to kind of just waste on one guy. All I have to say is 2 words: Mark Melancon.
And here's Chris Owing, fights it off, and it drops in, and the Diamondbacks walk it off.
Sanchez hits one in the air to deep right field. Back goes Hunter Pence, looking up, and McCovey Cove, here it comes.
High fly ball, deep left field, way back.
In the air to left field for O'Neill. That ball is back, and that ball
is gone.
Hansen deals. Machado drives one the other way. Pence back on it. He turns. It's off the wall. It ricochets back towards the infield.
Whoever decided to give Melvin Upton $75 million in 2013, they need to have their check mark on Twitter removed. They need to have their scouting license taken away, because in the years that he was in Atlanta as a Brave, they could not get rid of him fast enough, as he produced a terrible 198, 279, and 314 split line. The guy did not even hit 200. He was below the Mendoza line. He was eventually traded to the Padres with Craig Kimbrell, and then he kind of bounced around from team to team. He eventually made it to the Indians, so I saw him play a little bit. I thought that maybe he could capture that old spark, but no, he sucked. What were the Miami Marlins thinking with this next player? Wei-YIN Chen got $80 million in 2016 for 5 seasons, and the guy has been one of the worst pitchers in baseball since then. He was moved to the bullpen in 2019, where he had a solid 6.59 ERA over 45 games. I think the Marlins kind of saw the writing on the wall and they decided to release him. He still has $8 million left on the final year of his deal, so he's going to get paid, even though he's been a trash can, a literal trash can since signing this deal. He actually robbed the Marlins of their money. And that's why teams like the Tigers, the Royals, and the Marlins, they're all in the pit right now because they tied up all of their money in one player, and that player bombed. We're gonna do an exercise right now, just like we do with Mark Melancon. We're gonna say the player's name. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to envision how bad this player was. Ubaldo Jimenez. $50 million, 4 years for the Orioles. From 2016 to 2017, he won just 14 games and had a 6 ERA. Definitely not good.
Even though they've turned a lot of double plays. Oh, there's a drive to deep left field, and the ball game is over.
I forgot that Jason Bay even played in this decade. Back in 2010, the Mets, another team that is on this list a couple times, the Mets gave him a $66 million contract for 4 years, which is actually not too bad. Jason Bay, back in the day, don't call me a rapper, I can rhyme a little bit. He was one of the best players in baseball when he played for the Pirates and the Red Sox. If you've ever played the Bigs 2, you know exactly what I mean. Over the course of his New York career, he had a .234 combined batting average and just 26 home runs, so he didn't even reach what he did the year before with Boston. In Boston, he had 36 home runs and 119 RBIs in one single season, so the fact that he did more in one season than he did his entire career in New York, that is actually pretty crazy. But that's gonna do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. If I did miss anyone, let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.